For this demonstration, I am going to apply flowers onto this painting here. And this deer and butterfly is actually a tutorial on my YouTube channel here. I'll link that down below. And also how I collaged these papers into the painting, that is also a tutorial, so I'll link that down below too for you if you'd like to know how I did that. So before we get started, I'm going to go over all of the supplies that you need. So you will need pressed flowers. So here are some flowers that I pressed that I'm thinking of using for my painting. And to press flowers, you'll need some kind of flower press. So I have this one here. This is what mine looks like. I will link in the description a flower press that is either this one or one like it down below under supplies used in this video. If you don't have a flower press, then you can just use a book. That should work as well. You just want to make sure that your pressed flowers are completely dry. You don't want them to be wet. You will also need the regular gel gloss from Golden. So this is what I'm using, or something similar, but I recommend using this. And if you plan on painting with watercolor on top of your flowers, then you'll want transparent watercolor ground. And you'll need some kind of tool to apply the gel gloss. So I have my wedge here that I plan on using, as well as a soft brush. You'll want to use a soft brush to apply the gel on top of the flowers. And then I have like these tweezers here that I use for my pressed flowers to just place them onto my painting because they're very fragile, but you can just use your hands if you want to. And if you are working with a watercolor, you'll want to use some kind of spray. So I use this spray here that I like a lot. You can also use something like this because you'll want to first spray your watercolor painting down if you have watercolor already on your paper. So that is actually the very first step for watercolor painting that you want to apply pressed flowers to, is that you want to spray your painting first and have it sealed, because once you apply the gel gloss to collage the pressed flowers on your painting, it'll smear the paint, which I made the mistake right here if you can't tell. So yeah, so spray your watercolor painting down first. You don't have to do that with acrylic. Just make sure that your acrylic paint is dry. And I'm going to briefly explain what to do with oil. So if you have an oil painting you want to apply pressed flowers to, you need to do so before applying your oil paint. You cannot add pressed flowers onto your painting on top of oil paint, because the mediums to use to apply the pressed flowers, such as this here, are water-based, and you can't apply water-based materials on top of oil. The only way that I could think of that is possible to apply pressed flowers on top of oil paint is with resin, but I'm not going to get into resin today. So if you have an oil painting and you haven't yet painted with oils, you'll want to first apply the pressed flowers. Then you can apply oil paint on top. So that is how you do it with oils. But now I'm going to show you what to do with watercolor or acrylics. It's the same. These first few steps are the same for acrylic painting or watercolor. But of course with watercolor, you want to spray it down first, let it dry. Okay, so the next step is to get out your pressed flowers. So here are the ones that I'm thinking of using, and you'll want to just figure out where you want to put your pressed flowers. So I'm going to do that. So here is where I'm thinking of adding pressed flowers. I have one here, and I have like a cluster right here that are overlapping. And then I have one right here. I thought it'd be cute if the fawn looked like it had a flower behind its ear. So now that I figured that out, it is time to get out the regular gel gloss and a soft brush. So I'm just going to take my brush here and grab a little bit of the gel gloss. And I'm just going to apply this where I want the flower. And it does look milky at first, but it will dry clear. And don't lay your flower on the gel gloss until you know that is exactly where you want it, because the flowers are fragile and they will get stuck very quickly. I think right here is where I want it. And then with your finger or like another brush, you can press the flower into the gloss. And then gently brush the gel gloss on top of the flower. Make sure you cover the whole entire flower with the gloss. And if your flower is thick, if there are some thick parts like a stem, like right here, you might have to add a second layer when this is dry, but I'm not sure if I will have to with this one. I'll just wait and see when it's dry if I should add another layer. Okay, so this one is bigger, so yeah, I'll probably cover all of this area here with my gel gloss. I actually might have it overlap the butterfly a little bit. It's good to overlap things in your painting. It just gives it more depth. Plus my painting will be cut off about right here, so I need to keep that in mind. Your flowers like this, it might be a good idea to layer the ones in the far back first, apply your gel, and then the ones that are on top of those flowers, then apply them. I kind of wish I did that before adding this here, because it's not stuck right here on this petal of this other flower. But I guess I could lift this up. I lifted that little petal up and I added some gel underneath. But yeah, it's probably a good idea to work in layers like that when you add flowers on top of each other. So I'm going to go ahead and do that and then apply this flower on top when I'm done applying this gloss on top of these flowers. My gel gloss is all dry, so as you can see, it dries clear. And at this point, you can be done with your painting if you would like. But if you want to add more to it, here's what to do. So if your painting is watercolor and you want to add another layer of watercolor, you can cover your painting with transparent watercolor ground. So cover your painting with this, and you'll need to let it cure for 24 to 48 hours before you can apply more watercolor paint. If you are using acrylics, you can just go right ahead and use acrylics on top of the gel gloss. And same with oils. Let's say you either haven't painted at all and you just applied your flowers to like a surface, you can then add oils now on top of your flowers. Or if you used acrylics first and then you applied your pressed flowers, you can now apply more acrylic paint on top of the gel gloss. The important thing is that if you are using watercolor, you need to use a watercolor ground that is transparent on top of this. So for me, I'm going to make it a little easy on me. I don't really want to wait like 1 or 2 days for this to dry and apply more watercolor. Instead, I'm just going to apply a little bit of transparent acrylic paint. So these are the paints that I'll be using. These are actually high flow acrylics, but they are transparent, which is important because I don't want to cover up like everything that I've already done. So I'm going to apply this in some areas on my painting. I'm just blending this paint with my fingers around the flowers and kind of like on the flower petals a little bit and the leaves of the flowers, just to make it look more seamless, like these flowers belong and they're not just like pasted on my painting. It just really integrates them very well in the painting. Here is my completed painting with the pressed flowers, and I think that adding the additional layer on top of the flowers really makes them look seamless and integrate them well into my painting. I would love to know in the comments below if you plan on trying this out. This was so much fun and I really enjoy adding pressed flowers into my art. It really just gives your painting like much more depth and texture, and it's just, yeah, really fun. So I hope that you enjoyed it. If you haven't checked out my free workshop, How to Improve Your Art Drastically, I linked that down below in the description if you would like to check it out. It's totally free. I also have a free watercolor class for beginners and lots of other online classes linked down below. You can find my Teachable. And I also have lots of videos here on YouTube that you might like, such as this deer tutorial where I painted this exact deer with a butterfly, and also a tutorial on how I added the collaged pieces of paper here that you see in the painting. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.